Well, hello. um, Obviously, I'm traveling, and but I didn't want to miss my favorite hour of the week. So let's see if this works. I would have. This was the simplest location to film this. Maybe I can find something simpler next time. So, 2 weeks ago, we were looking at the 9 mental abidings, specifically the 4th mental abiding, and how the question was that we started the class with was, how stable is your mind? And can you concisely describe the stability of your mind? And we talked about how important that was. So it's interesting because these days I am at the coast in northern Peru, and I've never surfed before, ever. Windsurfed, yes, but surfing is totally different on a wave. And today was like my 3rd or 4th day in the water. And my mind tends to always go to this meditation. It tends to always go to the Mahamudra and how what I'm doing relates to that. And of course, it did not fail me again. So I guess the same question we can ask, how balanced is your mind? Can you describe how balanced your mind is? Can you concisely say, my mind is this balanced? Like we talked about the other day, Geshe is very precise when he talks about the mental abidings. And we went into a little bit of detail, but of course you can look in Joyful Path to Good Fortune, where it clearly articulates the mental abidings. I think it's in the section on tranquil abiding. And anyway, so I wanted to relate that to this experience that I've had, well, I would say primarily today. So in surfing, you start with, if you've never done it, or even if you have, great, but of course it's mostly at the beginning about balance. I can't tell you beyond that because that's all I'm experiencing so far, but you start on what's called a long board. The board is long, very stable, very thick, very long, very wide, and very stable. And you do your best once the wave comes and you start moving to stand up and center yourself on the board, and then try not to fall down. Not very easy. I will say I seem to be picking it up quite quickly. It feels to me. And so I notice that it's all dependent upon standing in the center, seeing that you're not leaning to one side or the other, not leaning too far forward, not leaning too far back. There's a lot of variables happening at the time. So the wave is always different. The ocean is always different. The currents are always different. The wind is always different. Everything that puts you in that place of trying to find balance in every situation is different. And then you try to find the balance point on the board. Not so easy. Not so easy. But after a few days, I started to feel, I've done a lot of things in my life personally where I practice balance. Things like yoga. I was a gymnast as a kid. I did a lot of windsurfing. I juggle. I do things personally, just personally, that bring balance to my physical body. So I guess for myself, maybe some learn faster or slower, I don't know, but I'm very happy with how quickly it's going. However, what becomes very interesting is I watch the other students who've been doing this for a few weeks, what the teacher does, though, so there is a teacher guiding us, which makes it much better to have a guide. It's much better to have a guide. I mean, you can do it on your own, I suppose, but it would be a very long road, and probably a treacherous one, and maybe with no results, probably. I heard lots of stories of people who surfed for many years here with no teacher and barely could do anything. And then once a teacher came, in a few weeks, they were kind of experts. I hope you're getting all these parallels that I'm drawing to what we've been practicing all these years. So, but once you advance a little bit and you get very comfortable on this big, wide, stable board, which, by the way, it's stable, but what you gain in stability and sort of, since it's so big, you have a lot of room for error. You can stand a little forward, the board doesn't care. It's not going to tip anywhere. You can stand a little back, you can stand a little. It's very stable, this board, the board itself. So again, a lot of room for error. But then you don't have control, even if you're good, you don't have control of exactly where you're going. So then what happens as you get better, you sort of graduate to a smaller board. The board is narrower, much shorter, could be probably thinner, and made out of a special material where it's actually very slick. And these boards are not stable. They're not stable. However, if you can control it, if you have this stability within all of these different variables, while the waves are churning, big ones, small ones, fast ones, slow ones, if you have this stability within yourself and you can manage this smaller board, then you have so much flexibility, and you can turn and go faster and surf the wave. Yeah? And I find this analogy so palpable. So palpable. And actually physically, while I am engaged in this practice, this surfing practice, I find it amazingly beneficial, similar, and it's almost like a teaching in itself somehow. I remember Genladekian, she says all the time, she says wherever she is, whatever she's experiencing, she always says, Geshe-la, please teach me something here. and then she'll turn a corner and there'll be something there that is so clearly can benefit her in her development of stabilizing her mind and teaching us. And I've heard her give so many examples of that over the years, again, Ledekian. So, in this case, coming back to our mind. Now, clearly, this example of the ocean and the wave that Saraha gives us, this is like a direct example, you know? So the question is, how stable is our mind? How stable is your mind? And why is that important? Well, once we start to develop general stability, where simple things don't knock us off balance. You know, sometimes some wave comes along and we're fine, we manage it. And then sometimes something simple comes and it knocks us over. And our mind gets disturbed for a day, a night, 2 days, and we can't sort of, quote unquote, climb back on the board, you know? And then we do, and then we try again, and we try again. But I can see the importance of developing true stability and developing the finer points of a stable mind. Because, you know, once you develop general stability and you're able to meditate, as we talked about in the fourth mental abiding, for example, and hold the object through the whole meditation. That's a lot to ask for any of us, but some of us can do that. But still, even if you can hold the object for a certain amount of time, whatever it is, you know, a few seconds, a few minutes, or the whole meditation. But to start to feel those fine differences that you find, for example, in a small surfboard, you know, once you can find those small stabilities, all of a sudden, like a whole new world opens up inside your mind. Because you realize, I don't want to say, but like, you know, generally, I would say we have an ignorant mind. Generally, our mind is ignorant. I think I can say that here. I mean, don't use those terms outside of, quote unquote, our circle, because people wouldn't understand what that means. But basically what I mean is, we're not seeing things for how they truly are. It happens to me constantly, and I constantly have to remind myself, no, this is not, I'm making this up. There's another example I wanted to give. I was watching a dog playing in the sand, and he was running around in the sand. And there was a big kind of, it's one of these, it's called a kite. It's like a seagull, but a big pointy seagull. It's a very strange, has a very beautiful flight. And it was flying in the sky, and I noticed the dog looking up and noticing the bird. But he was chasing the shadow. And he kept running after the shadow to try to grab it, you know? And after a while watching it, I realized what he was doing, and then I almost fell over. Because I realized that most of the time, that's what I am doing. I'm chasing a shadow of reality. For example, someone says something or behaves in a way that you take offense at, and then you tell a story in your mind over and over and over again of what they meant and why they did that and what they're trying to do. And then you create this shadow in your mind. It's not reality at all, but you make this story and then you chase it for a day, a week, a month, a year, a lifetime. I mean, how many people that you know, have you ever heard someone tell the story? You know, I know even you meet someone or you hear them telling the story, oh, you know, this happened, this person did this thing to me, and, you know, I'm over it though, I'm getting over it, you know, I mean, I forgive, but I can't seem to forget it, but, you know, like it happened yesterday. Well, when was it? Well, 20 years ago it happened, and they're telling, and you know, the truth is, when you retell a story in your mind, it's never exactly the same. And after you tell yourself the story 5, 6 times, it has no resemblance. I mean, this is like psychological facts. They've been studies done that I've read, that I've talked about in this class. So all this to say, when we're talking about stability, is that it's critical if you want to be happy, if you want to be peaceful, if you want some semblance of balance and stability in your life, I think it would be fair to say that to the degree to which our mind is stable and can surf the difficulties in our life would be the degree to which we are happy, content, have good relationships with our loved ones. But invariably, if you don't have that stability, something's going to come along. Some wave, some difference in life is going to come along. And it's going to knock you over. It's going to knock you off the board. If it's going to knock you off balance. And again, to the degree to which this is a problem, how easy is it for you to get back on balance? Well, that's directly dependent upon how stable your mind is. Period. Full stop. So in this meditation, in the clarity of the mind meditation, clearly tonight we'll use the example of the ocean, right? Now, in our mind, I mean, I'm given this example of surfing a wave, which is a good example, but let's now sort of shift to exactly how Saraha, the great Mahasiddha, described it to us and how we're to do this meditation, although I do take some liberties, I must say. We want to use this analogy of the waves as sort of, I don't want to call them, well, let's call them disturbances in the mind. Things that take us out of balance in this case. Because what we're trying to do in this analogy is imagine our mind. We're using the metaphor of the ocean. We're using this metaphor that our mind, our consciousness, our awareness, the knower, if you will, is the ocean. Is the ocean. So the balance in this case, is sort of the The difference between looking at an image of an ocean in our mind. So some of us, I don't know, it's probably split 50-50. Some of us are visual and some of us are not. So if you can see in your mind's eye this ocean, that's great. But it's not necessary. If you're not visual, the idea is just to imagine what a vast space, a vast ocean would sort of feel like, not from a tactile perspective per se, but just from almost a spatial perspective. But again, it's beyond spatial, because it's not like a space that you can see and touch. Although we do use that imagery, ultimately what we're doing is you sort of imagine, you relax, you're grasping that I'm over here and there's an ocean over there and I'm looking at an ocean from a perspective. That's normally at the beginning what happens. But you want to find this sort of refinement, this balance in the mind where you let go of that sense that I'm over here and there's an ocean over there and I'm observing it, and you allow your mental awareness to absorb into every molecule of this vast ocean. Now I'm taking a lot of liberties saying molecules because ultimately all of that, the next step of that is that whole sense dissolves. But for now, let's look at it from this perspective, that we balance, we find balance in the space where we're absorbing into this vast ocean of consciousness in our mind. And this is, from a physical perspective, we say, so let's quickly, we're 24 minutes in, so let me take 6 more minutes and talk about from this perspective, the nature, the function, and location of the mind. And then we'll go right into this sort of balance absorption into the space of the mind. So, okay, so the location for a moment. When we talk about the location of the mind, Geshe-la always says that we're doing this particular meditation, and most of our meditations actually, but not all, at the heart, within the heart chakra. And there's a lot of reasons for this. But I will say that when we meditate at deeper places, meaning lower in the body, let's say in the root chakra. The root chakra is a very balanced chakra to do meditations in. It's very easy to find stability in the root chakra. However, it's not as easy to find this sort of fine differentials like the difference between a long board and a short board. The long board, you could say, is like down in the root chakra. It's very stable, but not as sharp and flexible. Yeah. In the heart chakra, it's the perfect balance between stability and flexibility. It's the perfect balance. Also, it's where we find our connection to our root mind is in the heart chakra. Lots of reasons for this, which I've discussed previously and will in the future, but let's just leave it there for the moment, yeah? So the place that we're trying to sort of, in general, we talk about, you know, the region of the heart. If you want to be more precise, depending on your balance in your mind, imagine that your heart chakra is actually a little bit closer to the back than the front of your physical body, of your chest, yeah? And directly in the center line, yeah? Right about there, sort of maybe just above your solar plexus perhaps, or at your solar plexus. If you practice for a while, you naturally draw in and you'll find that space yourself through concentration. I'm just trying to guide you to that place, but eventually it just absorbs naturally, and your mind naturally will absorb into the exact location. But for now, the general location is fine. Okay? So that's the location. And again, the function of the mind is to know. It's the knower. What is the mind? The mind is the knower. The mind remembers. The creative, all of your creativity comes from the mind, right? The mind doesn't have any limitations. Ultimately, the location is locationless. So when we talk about the location, it's more of like a portal into the mind than an ultimate location. It's basically where the body and the mind connect. But once you pass through the body to the mind itself, then that location sort of becomes irrelevant. But that's going a little too deep. Okay, so as I described the nature of the mind, let's start the meditation, and then I'll describe the nature of the mind and then guide us into that place. Yeah? So sit up straight and tall, very comfortable, but very erect, very straight. Exaggerate your posture. Yeah? So if you sit up straight and tall, almost as if you're balancing a book on your head, but you're sitting up very, very straight, yeah? Then you will keep yourself awake and alert. So it's a real benefit to sit up straight and tall. Relax your shoulders. Almost force them down just a bit and pull them back in space. Slightly lifting your chest to where your back is exaggeratingly straight. Yeah? And find yourself balanced on your sitting bones. If your feet are on the floor, have them flat on the floor, directly below your knees. There's lots of reasons for this, but also find the most comfortable position for yourself. These are all just suggestions, but you know your body best. Follow what feels right for you. And with keeping perfect posture, take a deep breath in. Exhale and let every fiber of your body relax. Almost as if your body is dissolving in space. As if you're melting into the space where you're sitting. Your body is extremely comfortable, quiet, and still. Just relax, release, and let go. Let go of every thought. Let go of every feeling. Any sounds that appear, just let them pass through your mind, unobstructed, as if there's nothing there. Every breath, you become more and more relaxed. Your body is as if ephemeral, as if your body is dissolving into light. You're just a simple shade of light. Imagine the world simply dissolves as a shadow dissolves when the light is shined on it. Turn on the light of your awareness and allow the universe, the world, and yourself to simply dissolve into that bright light. And bringing all your awareness to your heart center, your heart chakra. And feel the perfect balance in your mind. thoughts and feelings may appear, but you're attached to nothing, but simply aware of the aware space within the heart chakra. And now, with precise stability, as if passing through a portal in your mind's eye of your heart chakra, there appears to your mind a vast, clear ocean. The surface of the ocean is still like glass. And gently rest your mind as if on the surface of the whole ocean, not in one particular place, but be the vastness, the surface of this infinite clear ocean. And now, as if you're absorbing into that ocean, become aware of the fullness, the depth. Allow your mind to drop deep into the ocean of your own very subtle mind at your heart. Letting go of any perspective and absorbing into the vastness of your mind. Just keep letting go of any sense of perspective and sense the nature of your very subtle mind. It's crystal clear. Clarity, imbued with cognition, a clear space, a vast ocean. All of your attention is on the vastness and the clarity. This is your object of meditation. This is your very subtle mind. And of course, distractions in the form of waves on the surface of the ocean will inevitably appear. But now we find the balance where these things do not take our attention away from the object of our meditation. Clarity and cognizing in the depths of your heart, your very subtle mind, as if a vast ocean of awareness let go of the wave. Relax, release, absorb into your mind. Keep absorbing deeper and deeper, vast and wide, and sense the stability and the sharpness of your own awareness. Let go and find the balance in the vastness of the ocean of your mind. The ocean is deep, and even the biggest wave is insignificant to the one who identifies with the vastness of the ocean-like consciousness at your heart. The light of wisdom frees us from the darkness of ignorance. Identify with the clear light and cognition of the subtle mind at your heart. This freedom comes from letting go of the grasping of the thoughts and emotions that appear like waves on the surface of the ocean of your consciousness, of your mind. Keep letting go of the thoughts, the feelings, distractions, and identify with the clarity of the vastness of your ocean-like consciousness at your heart. let go. And absorb deeper and deeper, wider and vaster. Wisdom comes from letting go of identifying with the deluded states of mind on the surface of the ocean. And identifying with the true nature of the fine balance of the very subtle mind. This blissful, peaceful clarity, this empty-like space. This is your true self. This is the Mahamudra. So now, as we bring this meditation to a close, let's observe the level of balance, stability, and sharpness that arose in our mind, if only for a moment, during the meditation. Even one moment of balance creates fantastic imprints in our mind. For continued stability, clarity, and correct identification. So with your eyes closed, take a deep breath in. Exhale and relax your mind, keeping your eyes closed and savoring the taste of your meditation. And let's take that enjoyment and dedicate it to our continued development of stability in our mind. May we develop stable, peaceful minds. And may we do our best to improve our relations with others and stop chasing shadows in our minds, but find the balance as we surf our way through our mind. And may we be balanced, not only for our own benefit, but so that others can see our good example. And may a wish arise in them to find peace, harmony, and balance in their minds. Through a qualified guide. Now take a last deep inhale. Exhale. And open your eyes. And as Genla always asks, may our guide show us at every turn a teaching to help us develop stability and clarity in our minds. If we look, we will see these teachings around every corner and in every moment.